How do we create new ways of dealing with the questions that every society has to deal with? Crime and punishment, education, community work. All of that is beginning to happen in Detroit. I don't know how much you know about the new work.
There are going to be, conflicts that come up just because of the nature of schools, like the way they are. And so I see a lot of superficial confrontations that develop into like grudges and into physical altercations. And it's not even deeply rooted. It's more they're just not given the time to know each other and to understand each other and to work with each other.
The more serious conflict, the physical conflict, usually occurs with children who have learned nothing but anger at home. That's all they see. They're used to reacting with a temper. And
with the students here, I think it's a lot. It has to do with stuff that happens outside the school, and they just bring it in here because this is where they live at. This is the school is in their community, and it just follows them from the street to the school.
So adults don't listen, and we contradict a lot of like what we preach, I should say, when we're interacting with students. They're not respected, and I think that's why a lot of kids give up on the mediation process, because it's not mediation. They figure it out by like 7th, 8th grade. If I just play the system and I nod my head and act like I'm listening, that gets me much further than telling the truth.
Modern culture has ideas about punishment and hierarchy and power, which are not really conducive to building community. So very briefly, restorative justice said, instead of focusing all our attention on the offender and having the people in authority determine what's the appropriate punishment, or in certain cases the appropriate treatment, the restorative justice movement said, let's shift our attention to the people who are harmed. And then the questions are, how do we repair the harm? What are the obligations of people in that regard, to repair the harm? And how do we build a community around that process of repairing harm? So that's restorative justice. Restorative practices is a broader umbrella term that includes restorative justice, which is more reactive, but also includes proactive measures like circles that build community in schools.
My name is Sarah Dejani. I'm the principal of Dickinson East Elementary School in Hamtramck. Before becoming the principal here, I was the restorative practices coordinator, and restorative practices is an approach to helping students solve conflict that the district has adopted to provide time for the kids to come together and talk about their conflict, because that's usually what's missing. The kids don't get a chance to talk about why they're having a conflict. Every teacher knows about restorative questions. Teachers are using effective statements telling the kids, this hurt me because, kind of I statements. All the teachers do that. They all do circles on a regular basis, which can be in response to something. Conflict resolution circles, which are certainly in response to something, but then also just community building circles that are proactive rather than reactive. But we do both, proactive and reactive circles. If the goal is to make consequences meaningful, it's not just a matter of doling out punishments, because that doesn't work. It means nothing to the kids. They get suspended, come back, do it again. So it's suspended, come back, do it again. He needs to face the people that he or she was separated from. So if it's the whole class, then we'll have a reintegration circle with the whole class. the kids all get a chance to say to this child, this is what you did, and this is how it hurt me, and this is what I'd like you to do from now on. And then the child also has a chance to say, I'm sorry, hopefully in the future this is what I will and won't do. This is how you can help me.
With Osborne, they gave me a group of kids, and we did proactive circles based on they were in domestic violence situations in school as far as young people, or they were in a domestic violence home, or they had had some kind of abuse, or they had children. And we started with them. And then we sort of mirrored it within the school, and that principal was very supportive. They were able to decrease their suspensions last year from 314 to 14. And we began to do restorative proactively with them twice a week for 2 hours a day. And what the result of that is that one of the largest gang members who was on our federal list for federal prosecution task force, he is now going to Michigan State, got a 21 on his ACT in this last semester, straight A's. The other young lady, Bridget, who was our female gang leader, and she is now trained as a restorative practice peer trainer. So because of her authoritative position, she now decreases all of the fights on the campus, and she facilitates the circles as a peer mediator and just pulls them in. They have had no gang fights at all from that last fight to now. All of these kids are hurt, and it's just like Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous. It's just Hurt People Anonymous. Every gang is about relationships, and it's about the lack of relationships or family. We think about our family dinners, we think about a circle. Everything is pretty much starts in a circle. And then I go back to just being in a church, the biblical thing of how the discipling that Jesus did. And everything was asked in a question, so much like restorative practices, and disciplining oneself. So what does discipline mean? Discipline is like derivative of disciple, which means that if I discipline myself, then I'm discipling others. So all the changes within me.